The year is 2003. Wait, hold on. Let me put on some World War II menu music. Okay, that's better. So it's 2003, and 13-year-old me, after having finally passed the threshold from childhood into being a teenager on a technicality, and finally being allowed by my parents to play violent video games, has scraped together enough allowance to buy Medal of Honor Rising Sun for PlayStation 2. I've had a fascination with World War II since early childhood. From playing with Army Men and G.I. Joes, to binging World War II shows on the History Channel with my dad, to the posters and models of World War II fighter planes that I had all over my room, I was like a 50-year-old man in his World War II phase at 7 or 8 years old. So when I got into video games, I was immediately drawn to the World War II era shooters. Okay, so the big day is finally here, and my dad takes me to GameStop or EB Games or one of those old stores to get Medal of Honor, but much to my disappointment, it was out of stock. I was determined to spend my money on something though, so I looked around and I found another World War II PC game called Call of Duty, a little indie game, you probably haven't heard of it. At the time, I did play quite a few games on my old Dell Dimension tower, so I figured that I'd give Call of Duty a shot, and looking back, this impulsive purchase of a new game that I knew nothing about was the beginning of my 20-year affinity with World War II video games. A quick aside here. As we go forward, I want it to be known that the fact that World War II really happened, that real people had to endure some of the most horrific human conflict that the world has ever seen, is not lost on me. Not at all. I have a deep and healthy understanding that this is real. I think about war a lot, and in my 34 years on Earth, I still cannot fully wrap my head around the fact that we actually fucking do this to each other. I sometimes feel conflicted about turning these awful periods of human history into entertainment, but I also really enjoy playing these games, as do millions of other people, so maybe it's a good thing? Maybe we've been fighting for so much of our history that our brains have selected for pathways that reward us for doing well in combat, and playing video games is perhaps a way to indulge that without actually hurting anyone. The psychology of war games is something that I've always been curious to learn more about. Like, why do we gravitate towards them? Why do we want them to be ultra-realistic? Why do we like things like dismemberment and realistic destruction? Maybe that's something I can talk about in the video down the road, but I'd like to team up with somebody with a psychology degree if I were to do it. All that being said, I think Hell Let Loose treats World War II with respect. It satisfies whatever messed up parts of our brains feel the need to recreate the horrors of human conflict in gritty and ultra-gruesome detail without feeling like it's making light of the reality of what World War II really was. I mean, it's called Hell Let Loose, and they mean it. There aren't any hero characters, no fanfare, no rah-rah let's go get 'em boys mentality. It's just you and the blank stares of the guys sitting across from you, heading into some of the most brutal combat that humanity has ever brought to bear upon itself. The game is violent. Bodies blow into pieces when they get hit by larger munitions, and it leads to shocking moments that often make me reflect on what this must have been like for the soldiers who had to experience it. At the end of the day, real people were forced to do and witness horrible, horrible things, and we do well to remember that, and do everything in our power to keep it from happening again. Okay, let's lighten the mood a little. With all that said, I will say that there is something about World War II that just works perfectly as a video game. Maybe it's the more or less cut and dry good and bad guys. It's not quite as ambiguous as a lot of the conflicts are today, although I'm sure an actual historian could enumerate a very long list of evil shit done by any given country. Or maybe it's the level of technology that was available at the time. It was modern enough that we can relate to it. There were guns and tanks and planes, but everything was analog. There weren't any computers, so it makes for a game with a lot of options and stuff to shoot and blow up, but it's not quite as complex as a game set in modern times where you're balancing drones and satellites and 100 different guns and optics and small-scale engagements with more emphasis on covert operations. World War II gives you large-scale engagements between opposing ground forces using fairly straightforward weaponry, and it just seems to work really well in a video game format. So anyway, after getting really into the first Call of Duty, I played Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and eventually did get Rising Sun, and later, Pacific Assault and European Assault. I'm pretty sure these games actually taught me how to spell assault when I was a kid. There's an A before the U. From there, we have the Battlefield series, all the other Call of Duty games, Brothers in Arms, Company of Heroes, and my favorite, and the most relevant to this video, the Red Orchestra series. When Red Orchestra came out, first as a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, and later as its own series of standalone games, I finally found the perfect style of shooter for me. Large maps, high player counts, and slow-paced, realistic gameplay. I put a lot of hours into the Red Orchestra games, but eventually the world moved on, and around the time of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, World War II games seemed to fall out of favor. There were a few here and there, but the market seemed to shift over to mostly modern-day settings, so when I came across Hell Let Loose in 2021, I was incredibly excited to hopefully relive some of those amazing times that I had back in the Red Orchestra days. Hell Let Loose has a good bit of history behind it. It was announced in 2017 as a Kickstarter campaign by a studio called Black Matter, and has since garnered a very dedicated following and gone through a lot of changes, eventually being sold to Team 17, the publisher behind Worms Armageddon. There's actually a great video of the evolution of the game by the channel Resonant Reports. I'll link his video in the description if you'd like to learn more about its history and how the game works. I wasn't there for the beginning. I got into it a few years later, but it's since become one of my favorite games, and maybe my favorite game ever. It just goes right down the checklist of everything that I want in the multiplayer game. Everything that games used to be, and that's been being dismantled piece by piece in the modern era of gaming. It really gives you a sense of what today's gaming environment could look like if we had never lost so many of the things that made it so great in the early 2000s. I guess we'll start with some of the basic features, like the server browser. This used to be standard in just about every game, and then matchmaking came along and, in my opinion, played a huge role in gutting the social aspect of multiplayer gaming. I don't think we can overstate how much damage matchmaking has done when it comes to creating communities within games. Matchmaking is fine for some games. I don't really have a problem with it in theory, but it has had the unintentional consequence of keeping players separated, and that's a real shame, because one of my favorite parts of online gaming is the people you meet along the way. See, most games used to have servers. You'd access them via a server browser, and each server had a name. You'd learn which servers you liked, which you didn't, which ones had active admins to get rid of the team killers or griefers, or which ones had a good community of like-minded players that you got along with, and you'd end up seeing the same people more than once. The servers were open to anyone, worldwide. You weren't matched by skill, rank, or region, and while I understand the reasoning behind those things, they aren't really necessary in a lot of games, and I mean sure, playing with people overseas can cause a little bit of a ping issue, but it's really not that big of a deal, and it's far outweighed by the friendships you make with people that you would absolutely never otherwise meet. Through Hell Let Loose, I get to interact with people from the UK, Europe, Australia, and I've even played with people in Eastern Europe, Asia, and North Africa. Unfortunately, the ping does get to be a bit too much at a certain point, so I don't meet too many people from most of the Eastern countries, but the fact that I get to play with, talk to, and often befriend so many people from around our shared planet is just so cool to me, and I fear that an entire younger generation of gamers isn't getting to have that experience as often, or at all, and it's almost entirely because of matchmaking. This leads me into the community aspect of Hell Let Loose. Now, I can only speak to the PC side of things, but it is hands down the best community that I have ever experienced in any game. It seems like damn near every single person I meet is a chill 20 or 30 year old just trying to have some fun after work. And I love how silly so much of the community is. What did you do?
I pushed him down.
What did he do to you?
I pushed him over the edge because he was ugly.
Most of my core group of friends that I've been playing with for the last 2 or 3 years are people that I met in Hell Let Loose, and I'm constantly meeting new people and inviting them to our Discord server. Apparently there is something about this game that just seems to attract people that I vibe with. My guess would be that it's due to the slow-paced nature of the game that rewards teamwork and communication over run-and-gun kill counts. It's a game that can be incredibly intense and rewarding, but also brutally punishing, and that punishment is only going to be made worse by playing selfishly and not helping your team. This isn't a game you win by running off on your own and racking up a high score, and I think that weeds out a lot of the more toxic personality traits that I find so annoying. If you have anger issues, this really isn't the game for you. Or maybe it is, maybe it's good practice, but hey, I'm not your therapist. There's proximity chat for your team as well, which is so cool. I'll often find myself coordinating with random players from other squads.
Hello. Hello, buddy.
What's up, man? Any luck?
I've been here just shooting these guys, man. They're easy to kill from up here.
Push up on those rocks with me, man.
Copy.
I smoked it. Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, no! Ah! It's also just hilarious. People roleplay and scream out for medics, and the chaos of the game just generally lends itself to unexpected and funny moments. Full credit for this first clip goes to my friend Big J. Go check him out on Twitch, he's hilarious.
What you boys doing? You boys lollygagging? You lollygagging in my Russian army?
Are you lollygagging?
I'm not lollygagging, I'm stacked bodies all the way up, boy! Don't you tell me I'm lollygagging! Get the fuck out here and shoot your goddamn weapon! Shoot your weapon, boy! Shoot your fucking weapon, let's go!
Holy shit, you're getting a commendation after this.
Come on, brothers! No, Jason Campbell! No! Jason Campbell, I'm coming, brothers. There's not much I can do, but I'm gonna come over there. Jason, it's okay. It's alright. Jason, it's gonna be okay, brother. It's gonna be okay. I know. Oh, shit! Oh, god damn it! Oh, fuck! I just killed a teammate! Oh, shit!
Stop the truck!
Stop the fucking truck!
Stop the
truck!
Stop the truck!
Hey, assholes! Stop the truck!
Oh, I thought this dude was
Shoot that prick.
Nobody saw this one time.
dome this guy.
Good job.
When we get back to base, nobody says anything to the commander, got it?
The whole thing creates such a vibrant and living atmosphere. When you're in a good server, there's a feeling of togetherness and socialization that I've only ever really seen in this game. I love how you can run up to a tank and tell them where the enemy tank is, or team up with another squad and go on a flanking mission. Hey, tank, directly to your right, there's a tank right there, turn right.
Yep, 1 second, 1 second.
Oh, never mind, somebody else got it.
They finally got the Panzer IV, we did it.
Now, granted, this isn't always happening. You will have shitty games where no one talks or works together, but those are in the minority. I am generally always able to find a good server where people are working together. I usually play on the UK and EU servers though because they tend to communicate more. There's something about the scale of the game and the nature of the player base that just makes for such an awesome community aspect. It really feels like you're playing with other people and having a shared experience, not just running around with silent screen names. If you haven't played before, I'll give you a quick overview of how the game is structured. The main game mode, Warfare, is basically a war of attrition, where each team starts on opposite sides of a gigantic map and attempts to take and hold capture points, then press deeper into enemy territory. Garrisons and outposts, or Garys and OPs, are the key to victory. These are spawn points that can be placed basically anywhere, save for a few restrictions behind enemy lines for balancing purposes. Garrisons are spawn points with a longer cooldown time that anyone in your team can use, and OPs are spawn points with shorter cooldowns that can only be used by your squad. Using this mechanic, and because walking to a point is so slow, your team is able to move up the map by placing new garrisons in captured enemy territory. This allows dead players to spawn closer to the next point and stop the enemy from retaking it. The enemy team can also dismantle your garrisons and OPs though, making it harder for you to reinforce, and it's within this give and take of territory that the game is played. If your squad leaders aren't putting up garrisons, then you're going to lose. The garrison mechanic works so well for this game, and it really makes it feel like there are far more than the 100 players in the server. You can really feel the push and pull of territory. It's crazy how intense the battles can get when you have both teams consolidated on a single point, with each side having a suite of well-positioned Garys to respawn on. I've played plenty of games that fought over a single point for basically the entire match, which starts at 1.5 hours but can stretch to over 2 hours in the offensive game mode with overtime. And there's nothing like capturing a point you've been fighting over for the last hour with 10 seconds left and adding another 30 minutes to the clock. It's one of those games where you can come back from the brink of defeat and end up winning. If you've made it this far into the video and you're thinking about picking up the game, I'll tell you right now that you're going to be seeing this screen a lot, and it's not uncommon to get stuck in an infuriating spawn die loop. It's just how the game is.
Good job.
Thank you, Abel.
Oh my god. This is fun!
That's all balanced out with the crazy unexpected moments though, like this time where the better part of a squad came out from behind a wall and I sort of just fired on instinct and wiped them all out. Oh! No fucking way! Dude! Oh my god. Yo, I just killed 4 dudes, be careful,
yeah,
holy shit.
I was about to say, like, don't push up yet, it's not clear. I was about to lay hate on these guys, but then you walked in front, then killed them all. And I was like, oh my god.
Dude, I'm so high, I was just like, what is happening? The game is full of moments like that. For every frustrating meat grinder of a point that you can't get a foothold in, there's another crazy situation where you can hold your ground and rack up like 40 kills or something. The player-driven randomness is one of my favorite aspects of this game. Nothing is scripted, nothing is really being encouraged by the game. It's all entirely based on what the players are doing.
Oh, we got 2 seconds.
Oh, that guy blows it too hard.
Dude!
Everybody saw that one.
He was the guy I was aiming at. Oh my god. That guy just exploded.
Yo, motherfucker just ran over a mine.
Oh, poor dude.
That's sad.
The maps in this game are gigantic, to the point that it feels like there are multiple maps in one. And you don't get the same control points every game, so you can play the same map you played earlier and not really even realize it. The maps are all set in different and unique settings, and there are quite a few of them, as well as night variations. It's one of the few games where the maps really just fall into the background. The maps are so large and there are so many different environments that I never really feel like I've played the same one too many times. And there aren't really any maps I dislike. Some are super frustrating like Foy or Remagen, but they're just challenges to overcome, and it keeps the game interesting. They're still adding new maps too. In fact, they just released a new map while I was writing this script. I didn't even know there was an update coming, so it's a very serendipitous and welcome surprise. I know the first thing that comes to mind when talking about a game of this scale is that it just ends up being a walking simulator, but it's really not if you play it correctly. If your team is putting down garrisons and your squad leader is updating the OP, you shouldn't have to walk for very long before you get back into the action. And it also serves as an incentive to do those things, because once you lose your garrisons and get pushed back 4 or 5 squares, the only way to get to the point is by walking, and it really sucks. There are transport trucks in the game, but they're generally only used at the very beginning and they're clunky and easy to kill. On the topic of transport trucks though, and as anyone who plays Squad will know, the truck nonsense on the right of the front is one of the best parts of the game.
What I'm saying is, like, they have people that are much higher levels than this team.
Yeah, but they probably don't get laid like we do.
Exactly.
Oh, hey, we're driving here.
Oh,
I totally had right away. That guy
I am excited to die. I'm excited
Yes?
to get ripped apart. I'm excited to get my lips blown off. I'm excited.
I can see in your face that you are okay dying.
Does our driver have a license?
I think no.
I don't need a fucking license.
His license came out in the cereal box.
But driver, don't hit into the stone, man.
Driver, get to the shopper. I think we're gonna get fucked, man.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
I wish.
Driver is lost. Driver is lost.
Driver, are you drunk, driver? And I think driver is drunk. Driver is drunk. Or maybe he's high on mushrooms. He's high on mushrooms, man.
Hold on, going the wrong way.
Yeah, driver is drunk, for sure.
There's something special about the look and atmosphere of this game too. Everything seems sort of glued together in a way that feels unique. I'm not sure exactly what it is, and while it might not be the latest and greatest mind-blowing Unreal 5 graphics, it really is a beautiful game. The environments are incredibly detailed and realistic. It's the little things like the mud and grass and the amount of stuff that's just strewn around everywhere. The ground is lumpy, full of little rocks, sticks, and textures, and it combines with the excellent sound design to create a super immersive environment. You can hear the battles raging in the distance. It's not all just background ambiance, it's the sound of actual firefights happening somewhere else on the map. I think they did a really phenomenal job, and it all ties in with the gameplay and fantastic suppression effects to make Hell Let Loose one of the most immersive, intense, and cinematic shooters that I've ever played. Yes, I got it.
Fucking already. That enemy bottom run was dangerous.
I've never been in combat, so I don't want to make too many assumptions, but I feel like Hell Let Loose is probably one of the more accurate portrayals of what it might have really been like. Now, obviously, no game can accurately represent the stress, physical exertion, and outright fear and panic that a soldier experiences in a combat situation, or the emotional trauma that comes with taking a human life or losing your friends on the battlefield. I don't mean to infer that it does, and I don't know why you'd want it to. I'm just referring to the chaos, randomness, and intensity of the battles, and the way that you move through territory, always on the lookout for enemy troops. Fighting can start at any moment, and enemy fire can come from any direction. You have to stay frosty and move carefully. Your targets aren't usually very close either. Most firefights are at range, and you're usually shooting at a few pixels in the distance. And you're often dying with no idea where it came from. The game doesn't hold your hand at all, and the battles can start up at any moment. It's pretty insane how you can be walking through a quiet part of the map, then suddenly, out of nowhere, a battle starts raging. You can really watch it starting in real time. First with a few shots, then more and more, then a tank shows up, more of your teammates come to help, the commander calls in some bombing runs, and the whole thing goes from silence to complete chaos in the span of a few minutes. The maps aren't really balanced to make it fair either. Some points have advantages to one side. They're based on real-world locations, and pretty damn accurately too, so there will be times where it's an absolute slog for one team, fighting through open fields with no cover, while the other team is protected by buildings and defensive structures. It's really up to your team to figure out how to approach each situation. Man, you know, I just love this game, and even if I'm not always in the mood for it, when it's good, it's great, and it's one of those games that I'll be playing for the foreseeable future. I'm not claiming it's a perfect game, it's got its bugs and quirks, but the game is so good overall that I think a lot of the community kinda looks past it. It's one of those games you can always come back to. It's like an early childhood friend you haven't seen in a while, and when you get together, it's like no time has passed at all. Hell Let Loose is truly a masterpiece of gaming and will always hold a place in my heart. I can tell it's one of those games that I will look back on when I'm older, the same way I'm looking back on my days of playing Red Orchestra now. It's a throwback to an era of gaming that I grew up with, and one of my favorite games of all time. This is my love letter to Hell Let Loose, and I wish it a long and prosperous future. Sincerely, Dodgy.
Where are you guys? We ain't found shit!